get us started. On 3, 2, 1. I'd like to welcome everybody to Urbana City Council regular session Tuesday, November 2nd, 2015. Today's the 3rd, isn't it? Yeah, misprint, that's okay. November 3rd, 2015 at 7 o'clock. Roll call, please. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's get this thing moving.
Amen.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
The first thing on our agenda this evening is approval of Urbana City Council regular session minutes from October 20th and the work session minutes from October 27th, 2015. Council, to speak to those, we need a motion, please.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the minutes as prepared.
Second.
Okay, no corrections or additions? Anybody found? Okay. All those in favor of accepting Urbana City Council regular session minutes and work session minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Communications, Madam Clerk.
Number 1, Division of Liquor Control notice regarding Gastoveo Ramirez Enterprises Incorporated and VFW Post 5451, emailed 10/28/2015.
Council, speak to this, we need a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments on this?
Who's got the information?
Well, I can give you a brief summary. The Department of Liquor Control, anytime a liquor license is applied for as a new permit or to transfer a permit, copies the legislative authority of the municipality, and the council clerk has to, based on council's desire, either request a hearing or say, okay, yes, we got notice, thank you very much, Department of Liquor Control. So there are 3 boxes to check mark on that communication you got. Council just needs to advise the clerk whether they want hearings on these, and if you have a hearing, it'll be in Columbus.
I just have a question on who Gustavo Ramirez is.
My understanding is that's the new proprietor of the restaurant that's looking to go in on North Main Street.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, what do you say?
Hey.
Okay, that's good news. Thank you.
Any other comments, Council? We get these yearly?
You get them anytime there's a
Right.
major permit change.
Don't they have to apply for those every year?
Yes, and the renewals don't necessarily require council action, but anytime there's a new permit such as Ramirez or a transfer in location such as for the VFW going from North Main Street over to Court Street.
And Ramirez is a new issue?
It is a new permit, it is a new business.
I was under the impression weren't any available, I heard, but maybe this was being held for a while or something. Okay,
I know there is a quota system, so
all right,
I'm not sure how but they're applying for it.
okay, thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions, all those in favor of accepting the Division of Liquor Control notice regarding a new and a removing of a liquor permit signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And would council do a motion directing the clerk whether they want hearings on each of these individually? So she
Is
can
that
respond.
required tonight?
She's required to respond, I believe it's by.
Mr. Hess, I make a motion that we provide the clerk permission to address this with our direction of that we've noticed it and we've been noted.
Second.
Is that good enough?
I second.
Or to check the box and put it back in the self-addressed stamped envelope.
Send it in.
Send it over, okay. Any comments on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
U.S. Post Office alive. The last communication will move into administrative reports from the Board of Control.
Number one, the Board of Control recommends council authorize a purchase orders to Southeastern Equipment Company in the amount of $49,995 for the purchase of a 2005 New Holland end loader model LW130B. The list price of $57,495 will be reduced by the trade-in value of $7,500 for the 1991 case end loader currently in use. This expense will be charged to capital improvement sewer fund and is in the 2015 budget.
Okay, council, speak to this. We need a motion, please.
Second.
Got those? Go ahead, sir.
It's pretty cut and dry. We're trying to purchase a used front-end loader to replace our 91 model. Front-end loader at the wastewater plant's used for loading sludge about twice a year and keeping the compost in the best shape that we can keep it. Push and brush up the leaves in the last couple days here with the street guys bringing leaves in. And at the same time, we go out and help the street department with public lots, both of the city building lots, Monument Square. You'll notice in your packet, I would believe that Board of Control approved purchase of a snow push box that will be attachment to this particular unit to help out with snow removal when Colin needs help. So it's kind of how we all work together and try to get it done as soon as possible.
Mr. Fields, questions?
I guess I was thinking a skid loader, but it's not a skid loader.
No, it's a front end loader like you would load large dump trucks.
Okay.
Like I said, we have one, Colin has one. Ours is a 91 model. It's got a lot of issues. I was really surprised that we got $7,500 in trade-in out of it. One little footnote to that, I know $50,000 is a lot of money for a used piece of equipment, but a new one's about $130,000.
No, okay. Did you just happen to find that somewhere, or?
Yeah, Southeastern, actually the city bought the 91 model. It was used through Southeastern. I believe it comes from the city of Piqua back in the mid-90s. So we've had our current loader since then.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans?
No questions.
No questions.
Mrs. Smith?
It's in the budget, no questions.
Mr. Thacker?
No questions.
Mr. Peany?
No, thank you.
Mr. Hall?
No, I've talked with the chair. I appreciate you looking for a used model. I know it's going to come to good use out there as well as helping with snow. So I appreciate it. That's all I got, Marty.
Okay. No further questions for Chad. All those in favor accepting the Board of Control's recommendation, authorize a purchase order to Southeastern Equipment Company in amount of $49,995 for a 2005 New Holland end loader. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks.
Number two, please.
The Board of Control recommends council authorize a purchase order to Howell Building Company in the amount of $2,800 for the purchase and installation of custom curved rake trims for both the north and south ends of the upper hangar roof at the Grimes Field hangar. These items are in addition to the purchase orders authorized by council on August 4th, 2015 to various vendors in the amount of $68,309 for the hangar door replacement project at Grimes Field. This additional cost to the hangar door replacement project at Grimes Field will be charged to the airport fund and is in the 2015 budget. Vote 3-0.
Okay, council, speak to this. We need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Just want to give everybody an update on what's going on. The door project continues to move forward. The doors are in and they're being installed and sub-assembled, if you will. Part of this project included some of the trim around both faces. This money that we're asking for is in the budget. It's under the threshold that if it's in the budget, we don't need to get council approval. But it was an unforeseen, and it's part of this project that you approved, $68,000. So we wanted to make sure that we were clear that, you know, as we open up different aspects of the building, we found a number of issues with the structure, but one that was not anticipated was the price of the custom formed, it's a compound arch, if you will, on that roof frame. So the estimate that they originally put in the project was about half of what it actually is coming out to be. So wanted to make sure we were just upfront showing that, this is all part of that project, and we're just asking for the additional funds, and we'll take it out of the airport fund versus the original bucket that we took the budget from.
Mr. Evans, questions?
None.
Paul?
No, sir.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Thacker?
No.
Mr. Pena?
No questions.
Mr. Hall?
Yeah, quick question. I noticed when you drive by that main header beam that runs across the top of the doors, did they do anything with that? It looked like it was kind of sagging a little bit. You know, if they,
The new ones that are in,
yeah, I saw the new sheeting and the fascia and stuff where the sheeting was on, but you could see where the beam kind of bowed.
I can follow up on that. I hadn't seen that.
It might be structurally sound. It might just have settled over the years.
I know last week when I was up, I noticed they had a lot of the wood in the hangar, pretty rough when they opened that up, and how much rot and deterioration was in that structure. So I'll follow up with that in the morning and make sure we're addressing that, but I'm pretty confident they've got it covered.
Okay.
Mr. Fields?
Nothing.
No further questions, council? All those in favor of accepting the Board of Control's recommendation to authorize a purchase order to Howe Building Company in the amount of $2,800 for custom curved rake trims for the airport hangar, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Let the record show that Mr. Evans voted no. Passes 6-1. Next one, please.
The Board of Control recommends council authorize a purchase order to Hull and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $5,734 for technical assistance, task order number 3 at Q3 JMC property. This expense will be charged to the administration and is not in the 2015 budget. Vote 3-0.
Okay, council, to speak to this, we need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
This is essentially a little bit of catch-up. We had a purchase order to Hall & Associates earlier in the year to cover some costs down there. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was a few $1,000s, if I remember correctly, that we started the year with. They've continued to help us with the Q3 project from a technical standpoint, including meeting with Ohio EPA and some memos back and forth to Ohio EPA, and just general, being involved in the process where they needed to be involved from a technical standpoint. So again, this is a little bit of catch-up. I'd asked the project manager a couple times throughout the year to kind of let us know where they were, and they got to the point where they had their costs and they wanted to get those over to us. So basically this is catch-up, but we don't anticipate any additional cost with Hall this year.
Mr. Paul, questions?
So we're coming up to the end of the year here. We've had, looks like a couple overruns here and there, okay? We're kind of in for a penny, in for a pound at this point, right? What do we have budgeted for costs for next year for this project? Do you know offhand?
For the Q3 project?
Yeah, for Q3.
Well, there's still a lot of uncertainty moving forward what the city costs are going to be moving in 2016. Right now, I don't have anything budgeted in 2016 capital-wise for the project.
Okay. Okay,
But
that's
I'm
all.
still fine-tuning the capital side of the budget.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mrs. Smith?
No.
Mr. Thacker?
What kind of structure do we have with them as far as, we have a purchase order, a blanket purchase order with them?
Well, we do task orders, and so generally we try to have those in place before, and basically we kind of just lost sight of it, and I was pushing to get it and didn't get it, so, but basically, yes, you approve a task order, they come up with a budget, and they work from that budget. So they had a budget, they went over that, and then this is where they are, and again, we don't anticipate anything else this year. But it was a lot of the meetings we had with EPA and a lot of the memos back and forth with technical assistance, so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
But they do have set hourly rates for their staff, depending on, that's part of our contract, so.
Do we have a cap on it, or how are we doing that?
Well, the cap would have been covered if we had the task order
Okay.
current.
Okay.
But I'm saying if, depending on their classification of their employee, their set rates that are in their rate structure. So
Okay, thank you.
that's what they bill based on, their hours charged to those different people.
Mr. Pena?
So they'll be helping us all through this process here next year and everything till?
They would be involved next year if we end up moving forward with the project as far as on the technical side, overseeing all the remediation work so that we can get the covenant not to sue. So they would also be the firm that would put all that together to file with EPA.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hoffman?
Would it be appropriate to ask kind of where we're at with the Q3 project? I mean, we're talking about this item, but does that fall under?
You guys,
Why don't we
anything
go
you
ahead
want.
and do this, and then at miscellaneous business, we'll talk about it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Got any questions on this purchase?
Well, no, we owe them money, so
Yep.
we have to pay them.
Mr. Fields?
No.
Mr. Evans?
I see this is not in our budget. How much of the money that we spent on this project so far this year has not been in the budget?
I don't have an exact number for you, Al, at this time, what's not in the budget. I know we've gone over on professional services.
Okay,
It's all
and so
been tied to this.
in 2015 in our budget, did you have any money set aside for Q3?
We did have money set aside in capital for acquisition of the property. That money we have not spent because we have not gotten to that point yet.
Gotcha.
So that is capital money that we would have to spend on capital improvements.
I understand
Not
that.
For this. Most, if not all, of the expenses associated with this have been professional services with the attorneys and that sort of thing that's come out of administration and miscellaneous non-departmental.
And it's not been budgeted?
There is an overage in the account.
What,
Yes.
how much?
I would say we're over anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000.
So there's $20,000 or $30,000 that we had budgeted in 2015 for different departments that are gonna have to give up $25,000 to put it over into this deal.
The $20,000 to $25,000 that we went over was operating money. I still have the $30,000 on the capital side, that if someone
We're
was.
not making capital purchases,
No, I understand that.
so we're gonna take it from another department and give it to this department, or give it to this deal.
There will be.
Yes.
Towards the end of the year, we will be
Okay, so
rearranging the money.
We'll have to make adjustments.
Mhm.
So someone that wanted something may not get it because of this project.
I don't know that if they wanted something, usually if they
They
want
had
something.
it budgeted in their budget, but now they're not gonna be able to get it because we're spending the money. The answer is yes. You're gonna have to take money from another department to put it in this unfunded pot.
Now, this is very similar to what we do throughout the year, is reappropriate.
But usually that stuff is either budgeted, this is not budgeted.
No, I understand.
We're not
but
even-
the
we don't
bucket-
even know if we're
The
going-
bucket is budgeted, we'll reappropriate within the bucket.
I understand that.
So just so,
I just want everybody to know
Right.
that this program, that we're not even sure we're going forward with, has just ate up $25,000 of the city's money, and we don't even know if we're going to do it or not. I think that, and please don't take offense to this, I think that's poor management, and I think that you ought to figure out another way to pay for it and quit taking the money from the other departments. That's all I got to say, Mr. Hess. Thank you.
Any other comments, council?
Yes, I don't know that that's quite correct, if I understand now. I thought that the bucket was a certain size, but you're reallocating within the bucket. So you're not taking from someone else to
Well,
fill
sure
the
you
bucket.
Where are you going to get it from?
Are we taking from other departments to fill this or not?
It would be other departments
Yes.
funded by the general fund.
Okay, so it's coming out of the general fund, it's not gonna come out of streets, or it's not gonna come out of the pool or the parks or something else?
Well,
It's
they're-
coming out of the general fund,
They're
right?
funded by the general fund as
Right.
well.
So if,
Oh, I'm thinking reserves, I'm sorry, I'm thinking reserves.
there's no reserves, there's $2,500 worth of this reserves.
Yeah.
This has come out of someone's pocket. And you guys have to know that we're not even sure whether we're going forward with this or not. But yet I started talking about this in spring, about spending this money on this project that we weren't even sure we were going to do. And here we go We're $25,000 into it, and we can do a lot of things with $25,000 rather than waste it on that outfit over there. I'm done.
Any other comments, council? I will say that every department is allocated X amount of dollars. You're going to do that next month. And they're always got a little bit extra in every one. That's why we appropriate money.
That's not what the...
Mr. Evans, I'm talking.
Okay.
Quiet, or else
Don't point your finger at me.
I'm telling you not to
Don't
talk.
point your finger at me.
You wanna leave?
No, don't point your finger at me. I'm not pointing my finger at you, so you don't
Mr.
point,
Evans, I
don't,
have the floor.
don't point your finger at me.
I have the floor.
Don't point your finger at me.
Point of order.
Put your hand down. That's all you have to do. Thank you.
Mr. Fields?
Mr. Hess had the...
I understand. But he's not pointing his finger at you.
Every department is allocated X amount of dollars, and at the end of the year, you reappropriate. That's the money they don't spend. If they need it, they spend it. If they don't need it, they don't spend it, and that money goes back into the general fund and goes to people that do need it.
That's what you say. And I did point my finger at you. That's what you say. But that's not what's happening. So you can say what you say, and I say what I want to say, and we're done. Let's vote.
All those in favor of accepting the Board Control's recommendation, authorize the purchase order to Holden Associates in the amount of $5,734 for technical assistance, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Record show Mr. Evans voted no and passes 6-1. You have a footnote that the Board of Control had to approve emergency purchase order to EJP in the amount of $8,962.50 for purchase and installation of a 10-inch line valve at the east side of the Gwynn Street Bridge. It's already been done. It's done under emergency. It's just to let you know. That was our last Board of Control request. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question about that? Was that the one, the valves we were gonna put in?
That was the west side we did.
Okay, so this was,
The east side, when they opened it up, it was different than what they thought they had on the other side. So they had to get an emergency valve in to get that replaced while they had it open.
okay. And then they had,
So they've got both sides now complete.
and then they have a spare.
I'm sorry.
Didn't they get two valves though when they originally got them? But they were different, so we have a spare for the one
One on
side.
each side was different than the one they thought they were gonna be the same.
Okay. Are we gonna keep
So
that
they just
valve?
keep it back in stock, because they'll use it.
Okay. I mean, if it's a common size and we're gonna use it, I'd say keep it, but if
Yeah,
not,
we'll keep that one in stock. The west side's been patched, and, the road's been replaced. Now we'll work on getting the east side scheduled, close it up.
all right.
Is that why they were dumping water in the street on East Lawn?
No, they had to drain some of the tower. There was a water inspection, and they had to drain some of the water down and then resample.
That affected the water pressure over there,
Yeah.
big time. Thank you.
Okay, last Board of Control request, we'll go to citizens' comments. Any citizen have anything you'd like to say to council administration now? Quiet group.
Excuse me.
Move on to ordinances and resolutions for third reading, Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2467-15, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration of the City of Urbana to collaborate with the Superintendent of Urbana City Schools to develop an agreement for the joint construction of public infrastructure to enhance public health and safety with respect to the planned site of pre-K through 8 school and declaring an emergency.
Council, this is the third reading. We need a motion to that effect, please.
So moved.
Second.
Just kind of to catch everybody up, we talked about this, I think, at length on Tuesday. The work session, BZA, when they didn't provide they allowed the conditional use for the school, one of the conditions that they put on the approval of that was that number 3, the district shall develop an agreement in accordance with Chapter 715.02 of the Ohio Revised Code for the joint construction or management of public work, utility, or improvement. Such an agreement is referenced above, and such agreement will require approval of both City Council and the Urbana City School Board of Education. So as we discussed on Tuesday, the intent here is to work together to develop the infrastructure we need around that school construction site. And this is a resolution from council authorizing, officially, I guess, authorizing us to move forward and work on negotiating an agreement to that effect.
Third reading, Mrs. Smith. Questions or comments?
Nothing.
Zach?
Not really. We've talked about this quite a bit, so.
Mr. Feeney?
Not at this time. No questions. My last one, we've already talked about it.
Okay. Mr. Hall?
No, I just wish administration the best of luck and the school board and superintendent the best of luck on coming to some agreements here and getting things moving. I know the community's behind this deal and they want to see both sides work together as much as possible for the best possible outcome. So hopefully this helps get things kind of moving that way. So that's all I got.
Mr. Fields?
Ditto.
Mr. Evans?
Kerry?
Yeah.
You and I talked the day after that meeting we had, and at that meeting, you expressed a little bit of reluctance about this resolution because you needed some direction. Do you feel you've got the direction?
Well, I guess I would hesitate to use the word reluctance, but I understand what you mean. I think the direction we got out of the Tuesday meeting, it sounds to me like the general consensus is that council would support some activity looking to expand Washington Avenue. I kind of got that from the general conversation we had throughout the night. So with that, I mean, I kind of have, an understanding of what the objective is in terms of what infrastructure you'd like to see focused on initially. And I think what we have to do now is figure out if, in fact, that's where we end up going. We need to understand how we're going to fund that. We can't fund, at this point, we can't fund additional capital projects out of our current operating budget or capital budget that we're working in the process now of assembling. So, there's going to have to be some discussion with council as we move forward, trying to determine how to put the plan together that best fits the request over the next, year, 2, 3, 4, whatever it takes to get this project in place. It's going to require a lot of discussion and some open dialogue. So we do have we have something to talk about. Now we've got to finish putting together the plan, if you will.
Well, I guess where I'm kind of a little bit confused is we understand the school board's position and the schools, they want to go on Boyce. Are you assuming that we want to go on Washington?
Well, again, from the conversation from last Tuesday it seemed, at least in my opinion, the consensus was the best route would be to try to extend Washington Avenue. Now, if that's different, I just need somebody to tell me that's different.
Because you and I talked about was, let's let it get built the way they presented it, and then start today or tomorrow or whenever you and I talk.
Different plan.
On going with Washington Avenue. But I think they're pretty set on going on Boyce Street.
That was the last, and that's what we have in front of us right now. The preliminary plan is for them to extend Boyce Street.
So to try to put this together, we know where they're going. You think we're telling you we want Washington? Are you going to? Is that the way it's going to go?
Well, I think what you've authorized me to do is go have some discussions and see if we can make something happen.
Okay. I understand. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Are you done?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Well, I don't have any questions.
No further questions, council? Mr. Hall?
I'll make a couple statements, kind of piggybacking a little bit off what Al said. Me personally, I'd love to see Washington developed. I think most people understand that's probably the most viable place to put a road to the school. And at the end of the day, I mean, citizens need to know, if we had the funding inside the city, we could support something like that. This isn't something we can decide today that we want to build a road tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. This isn't something that was budgeted for. You know, what are we in the black, Chris? $5,000 maybe? You know, so while the city of Urbana has a fantastic credit rating, you know, at the end of the day, you can have good credit and not have a lot of free cash flow. I mean, we can't go out and float a bond for $600,000 or $1 million. You know, the state of Ohio took almost $250,000 away from us and rolled it back to the state and said, we can't have it. Now, we got lucky because our income tax revenue was a little better than projected, so it kind of saved us. And then with the loss of the estate tax, I mean, the city of Urbana is down almost $500,000 per year, you know, and so that leaves us with about $5,000 left over in a budget. So there's no money to do it. The city, in my opinion, I think if the city had the funds, I think a majority of us could support something like that, but there's just no money. And it could be that way for the foreseeable future, that if people want to look at bigger projects like that, is either forecasting them out into the future, like say the school builds on Boyce and we put together a plan to go build Washington and develop Summit and take it on over, that's a grand plan, but at some point we've got to have money for that. So, you know, we can look at what we're spending money on now, or we can look at increasing taxes, and I don't know that many people want to have that conversation. So just for the people at home, that's kind of where this is at. It's not that the city doesn't, you know, want to join in and build Washington. There's no money. So that's kind of where we're at. That's all I have on that issue.
Any further comments, council? Mr. Evans?
But just to move the project ahead, you know, they have presented their proposal. And some of the things that the law director informed us about at that meeting tells us that we could say we want Washington, it won't happen, and they'll still go on Boyce Street. The conversations that would go on during that time, in my view, would slow up the process. And I know I said at that meeting that I would not support a proposal that moved on Boyce Street. Well, I'm backing off of that. And I'm saying, let's move ahead with what the school wants to do, and then the city of Urbana can try to develop Washington and move it on out there. But the school needs to go. And I don't know about you folks, do you want him to go into a conversation with Mr. Thiel and try to get him to change over to Washington? Or do we want to let it go like that?
If I could just maybe, I don't want to beat a dead horse. The direction that we talked about on Tuesday was there was a preference to go to Washington. And if you remember, you know, we talked about, do we go to Washington or not? But in a negotiation or in a discussion, you don't necessarily, you know, you don't go in thinking, if you're not loaded for bear, you can't hunt for bear. You know what I mean? So there's discussion that can happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean your end result's going to be what you think it's going to be going in. Well, I guess what we're asking for tonight is building, BZA provided a condition for conditional use for the school to be built. That condition says we got to have a conversation, we got to have some discussions, some negotiation to build some infrastructure. And that's what we're trying to pass tonight with the third reading. Now, I can't speak for the BZA. I don't understand the back office work that went on behind that. I understand their intent was probably good. But what happens if the negotiations don't come out? Does that mean the conditional use is pulled out? I don't understand what happens if all three of those conditions don't happen. I don't know that. But all I'm asking is, you know, I guess, is if you're asking me to fulfill our obligation of the condition is to have the discussion. I think that's as far as I can go at this point.
Mr. Hess, I'd like to make a motion that we table this item until we have an opportunity to speak with the people at the BZA to decide what their approach would be if we decided not to do what we're talking about doing.
You have something to say, Doug?
The BZA put that condition in there at the advice of the law director.
The issue is, it's not just which street, it's how are you going to cover the cost of all the other related infrastructure? What portion is the school responsible for? What portion is the city responsible for? There's development in the right-of-way, so it's not just the streets. It's the sewer, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, fire suppression, potentially a water tower out there at some later date. That's part of why this agreement, you could call it a development services agreement, you can call it an infrastructure agreement, call it what you will, but the long-range plan needs to address these issues, not just for the school parcel, but the city's rights-of-way through that area. So that's part of what the BZA was looking at, was not just the school development, but the long-range issues for that conditional use. So that's why there needs to be some sort of agreement for the shared infrastructure costs, not just for the street itself.
There are costs that the district has identified that they're willing to participate in. So the other thing to think about in this agreement is those things would be put into this agreement. So there's communications back and forth between the school district and the city, with the school district saying there's certain things they're willing to pay for as part of their project, or legally able to pay for as part of their project. And this agreement, a part of it would be how that's, putting that into an agreement that everybody signs and agrees to.
So that they're committed to pay for what they...
It eliminates arguments once the construction starts and things like that as well, by having that in place. So that's kind of the other part of the agreement, at least that's been my understanding.
On your infrastructure, you're talking about the water and the sewer.
It's not just a road, it's not a road, we're not talking about negotiations for that road, we're talking about all the infrastructure that's incorporated around that project.
All the infrastructure.
Or it's extended, or it's not extended.
For example, this district has identified improvements they will make to Community Drive. Those have been put in, as part of the application, but this agreement would actually put those things into the agreement, and, at the end of the day, everybody would know what everybody was paying for, so.
One of the things we're trying to avoid is, early, sometimes back in the process, there was things flying around that the city agreed to do something back when, and, nothing was ever memorialized. So the intent is to memorialize those things that were each side's going to commit to. So when it comes up at some point down the road, it's clear. Council's adopted it, school board's adopted it. This isn't about just one item. This isn't about Boyd Street versus community or Washington. It's a combination of things that's all going to be part of that discussion.
It's really all the infrastructure, if you will. That's going to need to be built, that's public infrastructure.
I rescind my motion.
Okay, about that. Any other questions or comments? Roll call on the passage of resolution.
Marty?
Oh, he had something.
I'd just like to echo what Mr. Hoffman said about the need for additional revenue. Projects like this are really important to the city, and if we don't do something to increase revenue to the city, we're going to be in this situation more and more. We're down police officers, we're down fire department, or firemen. Something the public needs to be thinking about. I just wanted to kind of echo what Mr. Hoffman was saying there. Now, go ahead, that's all I want to say.
Anybody else? Roll call for the passage of resolution 2467-15.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Fields.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Paul.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Thackeray.
Yes.
Mr. Pena.
Yes.
Resolution 2467-15 passes unanimously.
Doesn't mean anything.
And the next one, please.
Ordinance number 4449-15, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of Urbana, Ohio by rezoning the 2.052 acres annexed into the city of Urbana, Ohio on September 8, 2015.
Okay, this is the third and final reading on this ordinance.
Yes, this is the Dollar Tree property on 36. It was brought into the city, I think, back in September, and it was brought in under its existing township zoning. So basically, until we amend the zoning map of the city and put this parcel on the map, then it will become, zoned accordingly. So it's going to be Zone B2 General Business District, which is the same zoning as the commercial properties across the street, and it's also the underlying zoning for the Walmart PUD. So anyway, we'll update the zoning map to include that parcel. We've had Planning Commission's recommendation on this, and 2 readings of council. This will be the third, plus we've had a public hearing. And I did talk to the representative of the current property owner, and they were okay with the direction we were going on this. So
Need a motion that this is a third reading and to that effect too.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Thacker, questions?
No questions.
Mr. Pena?
No questions.
Mr. Hoffman?
No, sir.
Mr. Fields?
No.
Mr. Evans?
You said that this was I didn't see a recommendation come from the,
it was in what came to council on the first reading. Planning Commission acted on it, I think, and all that's in the original resolution, which I don't have a copy of.
I
But
didn't see that. Okay, thank you.
But they did act on it. They did make a recommendation. I guess it would have been their September meeting, I believe, soon after the annexation was official.
Paul?
Anything else? I have no questions.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Any further questions, council?
I just have a comment. Didn't we used to get I know we've gone to this, we used to get recommendations from I don't know that I saw that, and I
It was
just
in the
have,
October 6th packet is when the ordinance was introduced. There's an Exhibit A which shows the map,
okay,
if you will,
right,
and
okay,
then the
yep.
application for the zoning permit.
gotcha.
Right.
Sorry about that, Doug.
We also have been trying to get Planning Commission, BZA, those minutes to you right after they've been passed by those respective boards. So
Okay.
sometimes there's a 60-day lag, but we've been trying to not send you March minutes in October, so I've been making a concerted effort for that.
That's all I have.
Any other council members have any questions or comments? Roll call on the passage of ordinance 4449-15.
Mr. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Thackeray?
Yes.
Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 4449-15 passes unanimously, and welcome to the city. In 30 days?
They're in the city.
Oh.
It's just,
Yeah, officially.
yes. 30 days this will be effective, yes.
Was the last third reading? Second readings, Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2468-15, a resolution to authorize preliminary approval between the City of Urbana, Ohio and the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the repair of various bridges within ODOT District 7, D07BH FY18, PID number 101838, to include the Miami Street Bridge over Dugan Run, structure file number 110793, Bridge CHP 361456, within the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, this is second reading. Tyler will walk us through it.
This is a blanket request by ODOT to probably quite a few towns to pass a resolution to repair some of their bridges. They're responsible for the state route bridges even within cities, so they're responsible for inspection and maintenance to those. Some of the things that were mentioned in the cover letter that we received are scour issues, which are water washout towards the abutments, and some abutment repairs or refacing, so minor things like that.
Mr. Pena, questions?
No, I think we talked about this last week, didn't we?
Mr. Hoffman?
No questions.
Mr. Fields?
None.
Mr. Evans?
No questions.
Mr. Paul?
Nope.
Mrs. Smith?
Nope.
Okay, Okay. We'll declare resolution number 2468-15 have had a second reading. Next one, please.
Ordinance number 4173-15, an ordinance to establish Chapter 171 of the codified ordinances of the City of Urbana and to amend Chapter 173 of the codified ordinances of the City of Urbana as needed to comply with statewide municipal income tax reform.
Okay. This is second reading and
I'll go first.
Okay. you'll go first.
For third reading, Melissa Bear's already come through it again with me, and we found some typos, so the attachment, we'll be getting a modified version before third reading, but it's all typos, not substantive changes. As you all know, it's a very long document, so there are bound to be a few. I'll pass it over.
Yeah. Of course, this is mandated by the state, so that's why we're bringing this to council, and it needs to be passed by the second reading in November, so it takes effect January 1. One of the major changes that we discussed last week at the work session, we're in need of volunteers for the local tax review board. We're looking to have the mayor appoint one position, and city council will need to appoint two people, two residents of Urbana, to that board to act on any issues that may come up after the enactment of the new rules. So I don't know how you want to handle that, if you want citizens to contact.
How soon will you need those?
We'll need to have them all in place by,
January 1.
yeah.
Okay. So ask your constituents if they'd like to volunteer to cut our funds some more. Call the numbers in front of the council members. If you're interested in joining this, we'll need two.
You can put something in the paper, right? Yeah.
We'll put a slide on the local access channel as well.
Okay.
So they can also leave a message with them.
Right. Or you can call our clerk, or me, or law director, finance director, and they can forward the message to council. This is House Bill 5. Just a brief, tell them what it's going to do again. If you're not living in Urbana and you're working.
There's some minor changes. The net operating loss carry forward changes from 3 years to 5 years. Transient employees, the
12 days to 20 days.
Rule changes to 20 days. I'm sorry, I mean, we've been living this for the past 6 months downstairs, and it's all a blur at this point. So.
And we have no idea what it's going to cost us yet.
Other than we're certain it's probably going to cost us something.
Right. Mr. Fields, anything? One more time? Yep. You sure? Mr. Evans?
No. No questions.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Zachary? No. Pena?
Nope.
Mr. Hoffman, we will declare ordinance 4173-15 have had a second reading. And now the first readings.
Ordinance number 3948-15, an ordinance to amend the City of Urbana's emergency snow removal ordinance, section 901.06, and declaring an emergency.
I wanted to make sure everybody got the fresh copy laid on at your spot tonight. The draft I gave out last Tuesday was my initial swag. Page 2 of that distribution was the current ordinance and how it reads. Since then, Brianne and I have worked back and forth. She's taken the final stab at updating it, so she's put a lot more meat in it, if you will. I think her word was teeth in it. The big thing is, one of the comments we've heard over the last several years is about folks pushing snow out of a parking lot into the street and leaving it, so that is one of the things that we're trying to address is, there's a way when you're moving snow that you move snow and you don't push it into somebody else's property or in the right-of-way or in the city street to get it off your property. So that's one piece. The other thing we did was just try to update how the snow emergency is going to be enacted, who's going to call it. So the old ordinance was pretty antiquated. It was dating back, I think, to the 94, so it's 20 years old, 21 years old. And we were talking about radio received, police dispatch, street department, and so we're trying to use it, bring it up to date in how things are notified. Typically, it'll be radio, local broadcast, news, website. You might get a code red notification through the 911 center, but ultimately the sheriff of the county is the one that authorized to determine a snow emergency. So we wanted to clarify, just because, Pick was under a snow emergency doesn't mean Urbana's under a snow emergency. The county, the sheriff of the county is the one that determines whether or not there's a snow emergency. So if there's a concern or a question about whether you go to work or not, again, those aren't going to be things that we're going to address in an ordinance. Those have to be worked out with your employer, take their guidance, and understand whether or not you report to work. So, again, it's a fairly fresh read, but it's something we probably can't get into the weeds too deep tonight, but you've got the fresh copy. Hopefully we can, if there's any cleanup, we can get it to you for the second reading. But I ask if you have any questions, shoot an email or give us a call, or we can talk about it at a work session. We have a work session in November. So just, I'm open for other questions, but again, we're trying to just update it, refresh it, and address some of the concerns we've had in the last 2 or 3 years.
Mr. Hoffman, questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Fields?
None.
Mr. Evans?
No questions.
No questions. No questions.
No.
Dean?
No, sir.
Okay. We declare ordinance number 3948-15 has had a first reading. Next one, please.
Ordinance number 4439-15, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Administration to enter into an indigent defense agreement with the Champaign County Commissioners to allow the city to receive partial reimbursement from the Ohio Public Defender Commission for indigent defense expense in Champaign County Municipal Court.
Okay, this is the first reading, and our law director will explain everything.
This is something we do every year. Indigent defenses, as far as the city goes, generally, any defendant who is charged with a jailable misdemeanor or traffic offense has the right to a court-appointed lawyer. Most of the time, what we're looking at in terms of costs that the city would be paying for indigent defense are OVI cases. This agreement allows us, as it says, to get some partial reimbursement from the State Public Defender Commission through our agreement with the county. If we don't have this agreement with the county in place, then we get no reimbursement. So it's something we do every year. It's why the replacement number is exactly the same. So it's something that we can recoup a little bit of our expenses. As far as how much we are spending on indigent defense annually, I don't have those exact figures, but I can tell you that the indigent defense rates are set by the county. The rate for indigent attorney appointments is $50 an hour out of court, $60 an hour in court, $100 minimum per case.
Okay. Mr. Fields, questions?
No.
Mr. Evans?
No, sir.
Mrs. Smith?
No.
Mr. Thacker? Mr. Pena?
No, sir.
Mr. Hoffman? Okay. Ordinance number 4439-15 has had a first